So what's the real secret to living a good life? I mean, really? Well, for 75 years, one of the most incredible studies in history tried to figure that out. And in this explainer, we're going to unpack that entire journey and its single, pretty surprising answer to what actually makes us happy and healthy in the long run.
Okay, let's just start with this question. We all kind of assume that our future is basically set from a young age, right? If you have a good childhood, a great education, a stable family, well, you're pretty much guaranteed a successful life. And a tough upbringing? That seems to spell out a life of struggle. But what if that's not the whole story? What if it's not that simple?
Well, to solve this exact mystery, this unbelievably ambitious scientific quest began all the way back in 1937, right at Harvard University. The whole point was to follow people from the time they were teenagers all the way into old age, to see if they could discover the real secret to a flourishing life. And this project became known as the Grant Study. Now, the idea was, pretty simple, but totally revolutionary for its time. Instead of just asking old people to look back on their lives, which can be unreliable, the researchers were going to watch their lives as they happened, in real time. They wanted to find the actual things that predicted long-term health and happiness, not just what people thought made them happy.
So early on in the study, it really seemed like they found a quick and obvious answer. And to see how, we're going to look at two of the study's original participants. Their stories, at least at first, seem to prove that where you start in life is everything.
So on one side, you've got Godfrey Camille. The researchers literally described him as a social disaster who came from a really troubled home. And on the other side, John Marsden, the golden boy. He was popular, a fantastic student, and he came from this loving, totally supportive family. It looked like a textbook case of the haves and the have-nots. But just as the study was really getting going, this massive global event just changed everything. World War II. All the participants, including Godfrey and John, went off to serve. And right away, their life paths started to split in a way that seemed to confirm what everybody already assumed. During the war, John Marsden absolutely thrived. He became a decorated officer, even earning the rank of lieutenant. Godfrey Camille, meanwhile, never made it past private. So you see John's success and Godfrey's stagnation, and it just seemed to lock in the whole theory.
It all seemed so incredibly clear, didn't it? A good start in life means a good life. The kid with all the advantages succeeds, and the underdog struggles. It felt like the mystery was solved, but was it?
See, the story did not end there. Not even close. Because decades later, when the researchers checked back in, they found something that just blew their entire theory wide open. Suddenly, the facts just didn't fit anymore. Let's fast forward. 40 years later, the researchers came back. The men were now in their 50s, and oh my, the story had changed completely. Godfrey Camille, the so-called social disaster, had totally turned his life around. He was a respected doctor, a leader in his community, a beloved father. He was, by all accounts, thriving. And John Marsden, the golden boy? Well, he was a successful lawyer, sure, but he was also divorced, cut off from his children, lonely, and just deeply disappointed with his life. He was emotionally in decline. And just like that, the case was ripped wide open again. That simple, neat little theory that your upbringing decides your destiny, it was completely shattered. Something else, something way more powerful, had to be going on here. So the research team went back to the drawing board. They dove back into this absolute treasure trove of data they'd been collecting for decades. And I mean, they had everything. Medical records, countless interviews, even brain scans. They were absolutely determined to find the real factor that separated the lives that flourished from the ones that faltered. They sifted through every possible variable you can think of. Genetics, IQ, social class, career success, income, even habits like drinking. And yeah, a lot of these things had some connection, but none of them was the big predictor. But there was one factor that stood out, head and shoulders above everything else. So if it wasn't their childhood, or their career, or how much money they made that made the biggest difference, then what was it? What was that secret ingredient that let Godfrey thrive while John struggled? It was that simple. One word: relationships. The quality of their connections with other people was the single most powerful predictor of their long-term happiness and, get this, even their physical health. And this quote from one of the lead researchers just says it all perfectly. Good relationships literally keep us happier and healthier. The warmth of our connections has a real, tangible, protective effect on our bodies and our minds as we go through all the ups and downs of life. So after 75 long years, the verdict was finally in. The key to a good life wasn't about wealth or fame or career success. It was about connection. So what does that actually mean for us today? A flourishing life, it turns out, is one that's built on a bedrock of warm connections.
And we're not just talking about finding a romantic partner. It's about the deep bonds we have with our family, the supportive friendships we take the time to build, and that feeling of belonging in a community.
And, the best part about this whole thing is that this is something we can all actively work on. The study gives us a roadmap. Nurture that warmth in the relationships you already have. Make it a priority to embrace those deep bonds with the people who really matter, and make an effort to connect with your community, with your colleagues, with the people around you. And that really brings us to our final thought here. The grand study started by asking, what makes a good life? And after 75 years, it gave us an answer. So now the question is for you. Who are the people who make your life better? And what's one thing you can do, maybe even today, to lean into those connections just a little bit more? Thanks for listening.